place. We always need the youth. The youth is most important. They are characterized as the blood to a movement because it keeps on going, and more youth are going to take the streets in consideration of all the things that are happening today as tuition keeps on rising and also jobs become unavailable to newly graduated youth. We need to ensure that the youth will continue and mobilize and go into the streets because women make up half of the youth as well. Women make up half of the population. We need the youth involved. And today we have the Red Youth, which is a communist youth group that take on certain things in different schools and communities. Especially today we have Thea Connolly and Desiree Deloach. So bring it up, the youth, YS, youth and students, here we go. Give it up, make some noise. I see youth in there. Thea.
Thank you. Last night I wanted to brush up on today's history about the fire, and I did. And after I finished watching it, I felt nothing but anger, and I felt the need to write something about it. And this is what I'm saying. Oppression, patriarchy. What do these terms mean? Oppression, Oppression is prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control. Patriarchy is control by men of disproportionately large share of power. How does this relate today? It relates because we stand here where in history oppressed immigrant women rose up against oppression, yet suffered a cruel death of entrapment and were burned alive. The shirtwaist factory was run by two men, Max Blank and Isaiah Harris. When there was suspected talk of union, it became the employers' biggest fear. They worried about the unions because it would diminish their authority over the workplace. Blank and Harris relied on economic survival, and so they invested in the latest technology. Along with new technology came high expectation of the workers. Workers were not allowed to make mistakes, and if they did, they were charged by pay deductions from their paychecks. This meant for many families that they were going hungry that week. The workers were locked up like cattle. They were not allowed to break, not even for water, and when workers were finally allowed to leave, they had to go through a final inspection. This inspection included checking the purses of the workers, preventing theft. After these inspections, they left through the only exit that wasn't kept locked at the end of the day. For conditions and maltreatment these women had to endure to survive, there was no minimum wage or maximum hour laws. Naturally, those who are oppressed are faced with the challenge and necessity to rise up against their oppressor, and that's what these women did. They organized and went on strike in 1909, leaving the only place that separated them from survival and starvation. The strikers were faced with physical abuse and constant arrests, yet despite this and public indifference, they continue to strike and fight back with the hard line, "We want a union." I want to fast forward to current day and briefly discuss patriarchy and some of its many forms. I recently read Bell Hook's book, All About Love. In this book, she touches upon her own life and discusses abuse and relationships of different types. Something stood out to me that hasn't really crossed my mind, and that is that patriarchy is encouraged not only by men for men, but also by women themselves. I have to admit, I had to stop and think about this for a while until I understood. Society breeds this despite its attempt to be progressive. Women are encouraged to do the housework, like cook, clean, raise the kids, while men do the tougher work, such as mowing the lawn, fixing up the house, and going to work. We as women are still placed in boxes. We are supposed to be dainty, quiet, and do what we are told. Hooks also brings up that growing up, she was the outgoing and assertive, while her brother was quiet and passive, and her parents found this to be unacceptable. After reading the book, I would listen to songs on the radio, watch movies and television shows with a different perspective and understanding. Sorry. I noticed that these tools' prime focus was to encourage the dating scene, isolating women who wanted to work and be single, focus on themselves and be independent. Society encourages relationships, making us feel like we need someone, that we have to rely on someone else to survive, and our culture thrives on that. Even on the left here in America, sexism and patriarchy exist in the heart of progressives. It's just harder to notice by the words they preach of revolution, justice, and liberation that are spoken to us to ease our mind. Words that are just words until they are put into action. Just like the women workers that fought back, we need to continue to fight back against its stereotypes and society's expectation of us. We need to unite with oppressed women around the world, like in Saudi Arabia, where they are still seen as objects without rights, enslaved to their husbands in society. And I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes by Che. Liberators do not exist. The people liberate themselves.